Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Solana. I do want to say that I'm not a financial advisor. You should do your own research before investing money into crypto. Let's take a look at the daily chart first. And as you can see, we are printing a higher low if you look at this local bottom from September. And if you look at this bottom from January 2024, we are constantly printing higher lows. And then if you look at these highs, first one being from December 2023, then March 2024, and then November 2024, we are moving up, and this is what an uptrend is, with higher highs and higher lows. We are about to start breaking new all-time highs. So the all-time high price from November 2021 is at $261, and I think we just barely broke that, just barely. So it was 260 and we went up to 264. So not by a lot. And then from that new all-time high, we saw a pretty significant correction of approximately 33%, which is normal for bull markets. We discuss this on a constant basis on our live streams. These 30 to 40, sometimes 50 to 60% corrections are normal. If we go back to 2021, look at this correction here. So this is from September 2021 sorry. Let me just try to get this correctly. There we go. So this one. So that's May 2021 into June 2021. That's a 67% correction. Actually, that took place in around about 10 days. Not even May. Not even May. That's more than 65% correction. So I'm not saying we're going to have a 65% correction immediately, but I'm just saying brace yourselves. It's going to be very volatile. Make sure you're taking profits, especially as you start hitting those big round numbers after you break past the all-time high again. What we can do here is we can apply the Fibonacci retracement on this little fractal. So from the bottom in December 2024 to the top in November 2024, we have a target at $338. From the current price we're at, that would be an increase of 56, almost 57%. If you're looking to take that trade, you're looking for a safe move to the upside with Solana, I think $338 is a given. Solana is the number one layer right now in terms of profit generating, in terms of hype, and I believe in terms of volume, but I don't want to say that because I'm not too sure. But Solana DEXs have been on fire. They're outperforming Uniswap. So it's a good time to be a Solana holder. And if you remember, we were doing videos all the way back in 2022 on Solana. We were covering all of these dips here. We were covering all of these levels. And we gave you this support between $9.84 down to $7.62. And hopefully you bought in over here. Hopefully you bought in over here. And hopefully you bought in during this dip in June 2023. If you did, you'd be sitting at massive profits right now. On the daily RSI, we did hit a bottom here on the 21st, which does line up nicely with the bottoms here. On the price action chart, the last time we were down that low was in August 2024, which lines up with this massive wick to the downside. And since that wick, we have been moving to the upside on a consistent basis. So Solana is doing very good. Let's switch over to the weekly chart for more long-term targets. All right, now we are on the weekly. And you can see we had a descending triangle over here. So we had this resistance, another resistance touch, and multiple support touches over here. And before we continue with the video, I want to give a quick shout out to my Patreon. If you're interested in getting more exclusive content, you want to support me as a creator, and you like what you're seeing here on YouTube and you want more, feel free to check out the Patreon. That's definitely a place for you. There's a 7-day free trial, which means you can get access to all of my content since the inception of the page. So that means you get podcasts, low cap gems, technical analysis, project reviews, and a whole bunch of other stuff. We try to do posts there on a daily basis. We cover airdrops and a lot of stuff that we don't really cover on YouTube because we don't have as much time. And of course, because patrons get more stuff and more content. And if you're interested in that, the link is down below in the description. Thank you all. Let's continue on with the video. Normally, that means we're going to be seeing a break to the downside because normally it's a bearish pattern. But within this situation here, this wasn't necessarily a pattern that broke us to the downside, right? This had the potential to break down, but against the odds, we did break out because of the bullish sentiment in the market. And right now we're sitting, we retested the previous all-time high on the weekly, technically speaking, and we dropped back down to the 20 EMA, which was a great entry point. And the 55 EMA, which is the red line here, is a great entry point because every time you lose the 20, you come back to the 55 and you have a bounce from there. If we go to the previous bull market, this kind of actually, because we don't have the 55 in 2020 and the first quarter of 2021, I can't really show you this example, but on Bitcoin and some other altcoins that have been through a cycle before, if you open up the weekly and you take a look at the 55 EMA, whenever there's a dip below the 20 EMA, the 55 is a great opportunity to dollar cost average. Okay, so always keep that in mind. Now, regarding this resistance trend line that we broke above back in November and at the end of October, I do think it's possible for us to back test this as support. So keep this in mind, add this to your chart just so you can remember that you have this diagonal resistance trend line, and you could back test it as support before having another move to the upside. And from a technical perspective, that would be bullish. There's nothing wrong with that. That's actually great. And maybe by the time that happens, the 55 EMA will have creeped up and you could potentially bounce off of the 55 at the same time, which is going to be another bullish sign. Overall, we are in wave 5 for Solana. If you zoom out and you take a look at our wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, wave 5. So wave 5 is going to take us to $609. That is the estimation based on the Fibonacci retracement here. So the 1.272 is giving us a $609 target based on this bottom from December 2022 and the all-time high from November 2021. So that's our conservative target. Some people are saying $1,000, $2,000. I want to play it safe. I want to get out of these markets as soon as possible. And again, I don't hold Solana, but I'm just talking in general terms. You want to be selling before you think the peak is close. That way you're safe. And by the time the peak arrives, you're already pretty much 90% out of the market. And you can assess the situation, see what happens, and then re-enter during the bear market whenever you think the prices are back at a good buying area. But during the previous correction into the bear market, it took us approximately 427 days to bottom. So let's say we have our peak in May 2025. Roughly 400 days from there would be a good area to start buying in. That's going to be June 2026. Just going off of the previous cycle. Of course, it's not going to play out accurately. It's not going to mirror the previous bear market identically, but it does rhyme. History often rhymes, and that's why we should look at history and what happened before and analyze that and see what happens in the future, of course. But the other thing is our technical target here played out perfectly. So this was our target from the breakout of this pattern, and it played out perfectly. So our target was around $250, which was the all-time high, and we took the trend line from the top of the pattern all the way back down to the bottom here, and we placed it at the point of breakout, and that gave us that target, and we took that out on the dot perfectly. After that, like I said, 32% correction. You could have bought in 32% cheaper, or you could have simply accumulated within this range here. And from there, you could have waited that move to the upside. If you were, let's say, buying in at 140, you were looking at an 85% move to the upside. If we take a look at the weekly RSI, let's see what's going on here. So on the weekly RSI, we did not drop down to this massive support block between 45 and 38, which was our support here in June 2023 and in September 2023. So we hovered above that in August 2024, had a move to the upside, got overbought, and then had a correction. So I think it's safe to look at these previous peaks here. And once we start getting to those levels on the weekly chart, we can even do something like this here. So once we start getting to those levels between 75 to 91 on the RSI, that's going to be a good area to start selling your coins essentially. So this here was not a good area to sell because, well, technically it was, of course, but based on the RSI, this wasn't very overbought. But based on the price action chart and where we were at the time, at the previous all-time high, this was a good time to be selling. That's why you don't want to be trading based off of one single indicator. So make sure to take a look at these peaks here during 2021 and 2023 and 24. Reassess what happened after these peaks were formed and, see what happens. Right now, by the way, just so you are aware, we are printing a bearish divergence on the weekly chart. Unless this gets invalidated, I would be considering this our kind of topping scenario for Solana. So if we look at the previous Bitcoin chart, or the previous cycle for Bitcoin rather, we had a bearish divergence on the weekly chart towards the end of that cycle. We're seeing a bearish divergence right now over here. We're seeing a bearish divergence, which means the RSI is printing lower highs while the price action is printing higher highs. One way to invalidate this is to have the price action continue pumping. That drives the RSI much higher. Okay, so that would kind of take us to a safer place. On the other hand, you could argue that the correction has already played out. So that 33% correction, that was the effect of that bearish divergence, which also would be a fair point because we did have a correction. And that's usually what you have after these bearish divergences. However, we don't know if we're in a bear market, according to this. Obviously, I do not think we are in a bear market, but I'm just giving you an example. When this happens at the top of the cycle and we start crashing and we have a 30% retracement first and a little bounce back up, we're not going to know that we've entered the bear market yet. And then after this little retracement plays out, we're going to continue dropping. And that's when we know we're in a bear market. So at this point, imagine we're at the top of the cycle. We don't know we're in a bear market. We're thinking we're going to continue going to the upside. But of course, the on-chain data doesn't suggest that we're at the cycle peak. Neither do any of the on-chain indicators that I'm tracking are suggesting that we are at the peak. We're definitely getting there, right? But we're still kind of, little past halfway through, in my opinion, for this cycle. And the other thing to mention is that I don't recommend you guys hold your entire bag until $609. Definitely take profits along the way. You could maybe set up a sell limit order at 300, 325, 350, 375, and just take a portion, maybe 10% off at each of those levels, all the way up to $600, right? Or make it maybe 3%. Every $25 you sell 3%, and then at 400 you sell 15%, something like that. You can come up with your own strategy. If you want to see what my exit strategies are, make sure to check out our Patreon. But that should be it for this video. Let me know if you're bullish on Solana. Let me know what is your average buy-in price for Solana. And stay safe, everyone. Goodbye.